I've been using Cursor for 30 days, and honestly, I can tell you guys right now, this is life changing. And this isn't just to fearmonger and say engineers are gonna get replaced and AI is the future and whatnot. Like, you know what? I'm like, if you guys know me, I'm against all that. My background, I've been a software engineer for about 6 years now. I've been a CTO for a year and a half, and I've dabbled in like startups, mid-sized companies. I haven't really worked at a corporate company yet, so you know what? That part of the context I am missing. But based on my background and experience, right? I graduated, started using VS Code. My favorite languages are TypeScript, Python. I've done front end, back end, AWS Cloud. I've done all of that pretty much in almost 7 or 8 industries like health tech, finance, real estate, whatever. You name it, I've probably worked on. I've even worked on quantum computing, for God's sake, right? And I have no background in physics. So after using Cursor for the first time, I was skeptical. I didn't even want to install it. Like I just thought, no, like ChatGPT is. Listen, as a software engineer who understands the underlying technology, it is impressive, but also it isn't. Because at the best case scenario, what LLMs are doing is essentially aggregating all the data on the internet and essentially learning how to predict based on what it's seen in the past, which is very dumbed down and overly simplified. Obviously, there's a lot more things going on behind the scenes, how ChatGPT and LLMs are actually multiple smaller LLMs that are hyper specialized and they communicate with one another. There is obviously a level of orchestration going on, right? But I have always been a skeptic because I understood how the technology worked. And so I was like, there is just absolutely no way Cursor would be fundamentally life-changing or game-breaking. So I just never decided to install it until recently, because I finally had some free time, probably about a week or two worth of free time. And I was like, let me give this a try. What can I lose? At most, I lose a bit of time, right? Then to give you guys some more context, on LinkedIn, everybody keeps talking about vibe coding and how it's like crazy. Somebody who has zero knowledge or experience in coding is building full stack applications and whatnot. That was the first thing that I wanted to try out. I wanted to try out vibe coding with Cursor, right? Just telling Cursor to build everything, telling Cursor to debug. I don't touch a line of code. And boy, that was horrible. That was the absolutely worst experience, especially as somebody who understands and knows best practices in code. Some of the shit that it was genuinely generating was complete slop. That was just absolutely insane. I just told it to build me like a Uber clone or something, and then it like basically like picked a bunch of technology, started generating boilerplate code, and then like started trying to like specialize each page into the functionality. Bro, nothing worked. Absolutely nothing worked. I literally sat there for 2-3 hours straight trying to get it to just do a basic login application. That's it. I started off with Uber clone. Eventually, my prompts ended up just get the fucking login page working. It couldn't even do that. So then I thought, okay, clearly all these people on LinkedIn are fucking lying. They're straight up just lying through their cheeks. So then I took a secondary approach. I actually went and bought a course on Udemy for $20. Okay, $20, you know, it is what it is. Started watching it and reading through it and understanding like how the actual legitimate professionals use Cursor and use LLMs properly in their development workflows. Okay, so then I started understanding and realizing, okay, the people on LinkedIn are lying. They're full of shit. They don't know what they're doing. The actual engineers are still coding on a day-to-day basis as they would previously before LLMs took over the world. But what they would do is they would assign very finite small tasks to the Cursor, and essentially it would generate like one-off files or maybe like 40-line changes for them. That's how they were using it. And I started using it like that. So I generally know how to start a full stack application. I know how to set up a front end, a back end, authentication, ORM. I know all that. So I literally, my first prompt now was like, obviously I first did create React app or create Next app, whatever you guys use, doesn't matter, to be honest. So I did all the boilerplate stuff. I basically just installed a basic bare bones code base to start off. And I started installing a few libraries like Tailwind. I started installing like SHA-CN. Started like using the tools that I would normally use. I don't let AI pick it. I just picked them myself because I know these are very, very well developed and these have a lot of backing and community. So essentially, there's content on the internet that the AI could technically search and find more information about. Then, after I had kind of like the basic setup, then I started to say, hey, I want to use, let's just say Clerk for authentication or Auth0 for authentication. I have the library installed. You can actually get the AI to install it for you too, but I just prefer because sometimes the AI installs like older versions, so it's kind of wonky. I just said, hey, I have the library installed. I just want to basically protect all my routes behind authentication. Could you do that for me? Then it started generating files. It generated it generated a middleware. That's the first thing that I would have done anyway. So that's great. It saved me like probably 15, 20 minutes. Then it generated the user database schema. So it actually created a user object in the schema.js or schema.ts, whatever you guys use. Then it also suggested, hey, this is basically gating your front end, but your routes are still insecure. So it suggested it, but it didn't implement it, right? And then I asked it to also implement authentication at the route level. Then at that point, it started doing some funky shit where it started making database calls on the front end side for whatever reason. It literally created a database layer on the front end and it started. Then I stopped it right there. I was like, hold up. I literally clicked the pause button and the stop button. I said, hold up, what the hell are you doing right here? I said, we should not be touching any database layer logic on the front end. That just sounds like a security problem in the making. I don't know. Maybe some companies do it. I have never seen it in my life, right? So I stopped it and I immediately interrupted it. And then I said, okay, I want all database logic in the backend. And then Cursor was smart enough to store that in context. By the way, if every time you start a new chat, I think there are certain things you could set up as permanent context for the entire app. And then certain things are more like localized context. So essentially within that chat window. So anytime the chat window gets too big, where you've basically like asked it like 5-6 different unrelated questions, I highly recommend you start a new chat. Because the AI becomes absolutely stupid when it has too much context about different things. I don't know what it is. It probably has something to do with the underlying technology and not being able to properly predict if there's too many different things going on. I feel like as human beings, it's the same thing. If you're jumbling like 7 different ideas in your head, of course you're gonna like spit out slop and garbage. So the way I look at it is, Cursor, whatever LLM it's using under the hood, is like another version of Abir, and it can at most rotate like 1 or 2 things in its mind before it goes crazy. So I gave it the context, I just want my backend REST to all be like the database handling to all be in the backend API route. Nothing should be on the front end. It understood it. It's like, yeah, actually, good catch. Obviously, I think we all know this. ChatGPT and LLMs in general are overly positive. Sometimes it's a problem, actually. So oftentimes what I need to do is I said, be brutally honest with me. Am I full of shit? Or should database routes be in the backend? And that's when it gives you the real answer that says, yeah, you're right. You're still right. Even without the fluff, you're still right. Like, that was a mistake on my end. So essentially, what that means is, assuming a junior used this and pushed that code into production and had database layer on the front end, essentially, maybe even leaked a database password by mistake. Obviously, I don't want that would be bad, but yeah, I could see a junior absolutely fumbling the bag and just like leaking their database password on like an environment variable on the front end, and just somebody has to right click, inspect element, grab the credentials, and absolutely just get like a $10,000 AWS bill at the end of the month. I could easily see that happening. But I knew to catch that, and all it took me was 30 seconds of saying, hold up, stop, put it in the back end, and then the AI put it in the back end, and the rest of the code was usable. So what that means for juniors and intermediate, this is awfully dangerous. Awfully, awfully dangerous. For seniors who have absolutely been in the industry, who understand a thing or two about how to build a full stack application, you will be able to, like, essentially you're basically having a pair or junior who will actually do all the bulk of the work, and you're kind of like the senior mentor, project manager, whatever you call it, whatever title you want to give yourself. That's effectively what Cursor is. So now the big question, is it any good? I honestly, genuinely think Cursor is amazing. I genuinely think Cursor is amazing. It helped me build things almost 2 to 3 times faster than I would. having another, imagine just having another person. They're doing all the work. All you're doing is essentially just providing guidance. And if they do mistakes, you basically put them in the right direction. You don't have to, you basically free up your hands. You basically free up your hands and you could do something else while the other person is like going off and building things. And by the way, this other person that's going off and building things, an average junior would probably take like 30 minutes to an hour to maybe like create one file. This AI does it in 30 seconds. So essentially, you get another person who's 10 times faster than you, and you can essentially guide them towards the right direction. You can almost like clone an 18-year-old version of yourself, if you really think about it. And that is powerful because it saves you a lot of time. And for the price you are paying, guys and girls, I believe it's like $20, $25 a month. It is insane. I mean, listen, the amount of like LLM credits you get obviously is quite expensive when you're paying it. But what you guys have to understand is the amount of time it saves you from copying, pasting, and then maybe even doing research and constantly like giving access to your files, which by the way, like copying and pasting files, like there's always risk of leaking information, whereas Cursor has built-in privacy, and it also has built-in masking, so it actually masks credentials from the LLM, which honestly, like for a junior intermediate, that's like a pretty good guardrail to have. It is probably paying for itself, even if it saves me. Like I'm not talking about the actual engineering productivity. I'm talking about just me having to copy and paste and shit like that. If it even saves me an hour, my hourly rate is probably like $100, $150 an hour. Okay? Even if it saves me 1 hour, I have paid the subscription for the next 3 months. So I couldn't give two shits whether or not the key that I'm paying for or whatever, like the LLM credits that I'm paying for could be cheaper if I went directly to OpenAI. And I'm sure there are ways to save money, but like, I'm not thinking at that level. Like, dude, we're software engineers. I don't know about you guys, at least in Canada, we're getting paid like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay, so like $20 a month, really, if you can't afford to pay that, and you're like it's saving you hundreds of hours in your penny crunching. Like, come on, that's not really a consideration. I might get shit for saying that, but I fully wholeheartedly agree. I think you should just pay for it. Now, the second big question: will it replace engineers? I have a very controversial, not really, I don't know, you guys tell me, but I think it definitely ain't replacing me, but I think me being augmented with AI and being able to do twice or 3 times more work, it effectively reduces the need for additional engineers. So the companies that have bloat, so here's the thing, with corporate companies, right, like, corporate companies are very slow to adopt. I was demonstrating some of these tools to my friends, and they're like, oh yeah, we use AI too. And then they demonstrated theirs, and their shit was like fucking ass. Their shit was straight up trash, bro. I was like, guys, Cursor, compared to what you have, they don't even have Copilot. They have like a dumbed down version of Copilot, because these corporate companies always want to build their own internal version. They don't have access to the data. They have way too many guardrails, and they basically have like a very low tier product. So in sense, corporate companies are never going to be adopting technologies like Cursor, at least not within the next 5-10 years. So corporate companies, I think, are safe. Whether you're intermediate, junior, senior, maybe juniors are a little bit affected more at corporate companies, but corporate companies are safe. They ain't going to be using this shit, bro. It is the startup-sized, mid-sized companies that will basically be able to scale indefinitely with their current team. So everybody who is employed as of right now, or at least have a good amount of experience and generally are within a company and are part of the core team, that's an important thing. You have to be part of the bread and butter of what your company does. If you're like some random bullshit team in a company that's, if you're like autonomous robotics team at like Amazon who sells shit online and has cloud infrastructure, I mean, it's great that you're building cool shit, but at the end of the day, like Amazon's core product is all that really brings the majority of the revenue. Everything else is R&D. So like those teams aside, which may eventually, I think, get laid off, I think generally speaking, most people who actually work on the core products of their businesses are safe. I think anybody who's graduating new in the industry, it is going to be more and more competitive. So you have to be basically like top 0.1% of the people that are graduating. So that means that the expectations of new grads is literally going to be at the senior level. Companies are only going to hire people who have already a full understanding of back end, front end, authentication, middlewares, ORMs, scaling, load balancers, all of the above. Companies are only going to hire people that already know that. So I think what needs to happen, at least at the university level, is university professors, first of all, they need to learn and adopt this technology. If they haven't been coding in the last 10 years, they're washed. I'll be real with you. They're washed, okay? They need to start teaching some of the fundamentals of what it means to be a full stack or just an engineer in general. Yes, teaching us low level. Listen, I don't know about every school, but at least my school, University of Guelph, they taught us a lot of low level stuff, and that was great. Honestly, it gave me a very, very good understanding of internal tooling and software and how it was built from ground up. But at the end of the day, guys, like that is so far abstracted at this point, like layers and layers of abstraction, and LLMs just add another layer of abstraction. Like previously, like if you really wanted to dive deep, you can go Google it. I don't have to Google it. You can just let LLMs Google for you, and you just ask LLM like how do microcomputers work. I think there has to be a curriculum shift. I think universities have to fundamentally change curriculums, or they're not valuable anymore. And only the universities that do change their curriculum will be the ones that are worth going to. Every other university that doesn't change their curriculum, like, yeah, they're gonna get. You go there, you're gonna get into debt, and you're just gonna end up jobless at the end of the day. So yeah, the only real there's obviously effects to like intermediate senior levels, but the real effect I think we're gonna see in like new engineers being added to the industry. If old engineers are already suffering and struggling to find work in the industry, I think new engineers, there's just no room for them anymore. I'll be real with you. At the end of the day, like that might trigger a lot of people, but that is the case. So yeah, if you really want to make yourself competitive, I highly recommend look past your preconceived notion. Get over your ego. You have to. Trust me, I had to do them myself because, this shit actually genuinely made me faster. So pick up Cursor. It doesn't even have to be Cursor. There's so many alternatives. I know a bunch of people in the probably are going to go crazy, but like, oh, you should have used this one. It's better because X, Y, and Z. I really don't give a shit, man. Like, at the end of the day, just pick the tools up that is the most popular in the industry, because that's what's going to get you paid the big dollars. Right? Like, that's generally how it's always been. Like, sure, somebody can go learn Flutter, but if all the jobs are in React Native, then Flutter can be 50 times better. At the end of the day, React Native is what people are going to hire for. So right now, the popular framework, the popular tooling, the popular services is N8N, Cursor, Cloud, Chat, OpenAI, whatever. Like, whatever is popular is where the dollar is at. And if money isn't a big deal to you, so then it doesn't matter. Then you can go and learn Flutter for all you want. Doesn't matter. But if money is a big deal to you and you want to eventually retire and buy a nice car, buy a nice house, and grow a family, like, yeah, pick up the latest and greatest technology. Just look past your preconceived notions. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next one. Peace.